Thanks for sitting through this tonight. What I'm hoping to teach you guys is a bit of a CPR refresher or introduction to CPR if you haven't done CPR before. I guess all of us as mums of young children or aunties of small children, it's probably a very important thing to be familiar of and aware of and refreshed on quite regularly. So, have any of you guys ever done CPR courses before?
Yes, a number of years ago.
Yeah.
Yes, a long time ago.
Yeah. So in the past 2 years they've changed the rules and the process and everything. They've simplified it quite a lot. So you might find that what I go through with you guys tonight is a good refresher, but also has some new information that will make life easier if you've ever called in to do a CPR situation. So CPR is generally used for casualties that are unresponsive, not breathing, and potentially don't have any circulation. The foundations behind it are that the cells in our body need oxygen to survive. They've got about 4 minutes of oxygen in them before you start to die. So if you're able to be first response on the scene and then start applying CPR and rescue breaths, there's a good chance that you're able to revive that person or sustain them until professional services come along. So have any of you guys ever had experience with CPR before, seen it applied, or know of anyone that's done anything? I guess a good example I had was just the other day. I was up in Canberra flying home from a work trip, and the plane came in and landed and then sat on the tarmac for ages and ages and ages, and we were like, what's going on here? And when we finally got onto the plane to fly out again, they said that someone had had a heart attack on board. There'd been a doctor luckily on board. He'd started giving CPR. They'd landed, had the ambulance straight there, and that guy actually survived. So if you're able to be their first response, you can actually help someone live. So it's a very good thing to know. And like I said, with children, it could, save their lives potentially if you ever got into that situation. So you might be a little bit familiar with the acronym that we use for the CPR process. It used to be Dr. ABC. In the past couple of years, they've added a few extra letters. We've got an S in there and an extra D in there. So we'll go through this process first, and then we'll do a bit of practice of the ABC down the bottom at the end. So does anyone know what the D stands for?
Danger.
Danger, that's right. So why do you think danger is the first thing that we need to look out for if we see a casualty on the ground?
Well, you need to look out for your own safety as well.
Yep, that's very right. You're useless to nobody if if you yourself get injured by something. So what kind of things would you be looking out for if you came across a situation? Would you try to assess?
Power lines or an electrical?
Yeah, yep, definitely. That's a biggie.
I don't know, like chemicals or something spilled near them that was, gas or...
Yeah, certainly, things like fire, deep water if it's drowning, things like that.
Just being in the middle of the road.
Yes, that's right. And if there's traffic around, you need to, either you or someone else control traffic to keep that away from people. So that's number one importance. And if you're unable to control whatever these things are, do you think you'd still go in and attempt CPR, or no, wait for the emergency services to come along? If you can protect the person or remove the person, certainly do that. But if you can't do it without endangering yourself, then wait for professional people to come on. So number one, danger. Next one, what do you think that stands for?
Response.
Yeah, response. That's it. So I'll show you a typical way that you would try to get a response from an unconscious person or a conscious casualty. And if you want to let me know what kind of things I've done in order to get a response. So I found Georgie here. She's collapsed on the ground. And I go, hello, can you hear me? Say my name if you can hear me. Hello, can you squeeze my hand? Can you hear me? Can you squeeze my hand? Hello. So what kinds of things have I done there in order to get a response from that person?
I guess you're checking if they can hear you, like talking to them.
Yeah, so you start off with just questioning. And did I progress on to anything else then?
Yeah, if they can't talk, then you give them the opportunity to, squeeze your hand and another sense, basically.
That's right. So yeah, I went from, talking to squeeze my hand to actually physically shaking them, see if I can get them out of anything. And if I establish that, okay, they're unconscious, then you assume that you've got consent then to commence your CPR operations. So that's when we go through, we have our S first. So what do you think the S might stand for in here?
No.
Okay, it's kind of the obvious one, and I think they put it in there because it might have been so obvious that people didn't do it, but it's actually sent for help. It's at this stage, if you've established someone unconscious, unresponsive, either you if you're the only person, or someone else if they're around, get them to ring the emergency services and get them there as quickly as possible. So that's more just a reminder rather than going gung-ho into CPR, send for help. Alright, so this person's unconscious. What's the first thing that we check then? Airway, that's right. Unconscious people can't protect their own airways. They can't cough, they can't swallow. So we need to make sure that there's nothing in it, that it's clear, and that we're able to apply CPR effectively. So on Georgie here, to check your airway, you leave them on their back. You don't move them around to check their airway. You basically just open up the jaws, look in there, nothing in there, all okay. If there is a little something in there, then you'll turn them onto their side and do that out. But if there's nothing in there, you just leave them on the back. You used to watch out for spinal injuries when doing things like this, but nowadays spinal injuries are secondary to your airway and breathing and your circulation really. So you're better off, gently move them, but get their airways clear first. So that's the airway. Next thing will be
breathing.
Okay, so we want to check now that they're breathing. If their airway's clear, we want to see whether they're breathing, whether anything else is needed. So what you generally do, you get down close, put your hand on their chest, and you listen and you feel. So I'm listening for three things. I'm feeling for movement, I'm listening for a breathing sound, and I'm also feeling for any breathing against my ear. Any one of those things isn't necessarily a sign of effective breathing. You kind of have to have 2 or 3 of them at any one time for it to be breathing. If they are breathing on their side in the recovery position, wait for your emergency services to come. Just check if they're still breathing every couple of minutes or so. If they're not breathing, that's when our CPR comes in. So C is CPR. C used to actually be circulation. Used to go through the process of finding a pulse, going, okay, their heart's not beating, let's start CPR. They've done a lot of research and found that no lay people know how to quickly and effectively find a pulse, and you really were just wasting time doing that. So if you're actually doing CPR to someone whose heart is beating, you're not really doing them any extra damage. You can assume that if they're not breathing, they probably don't have a beating heart as well. So, and if they do, no big damage done. So the big changes they've done with CPR now is that there's one set of ratios for babies, adults, toddlers, everything else. The rescue breaths are incorporated as part of the CPR, and if you're uncomfortable about doing rescue breaths, if it's strange or you're just icky about things like that, you don't actually even have to do them anymore. They say that the compressions are enough to get some air in and out of the lungs anyway. And yeah, they're the kind of the main simplifications that they've made in this process, just so that it encourages people that aren't doing this all day, every day, or only get a refresher in a few years. It's something that they can remember and feel confident enough to go and do. So the basic process is you want to be doing your compressions just below the sternum. So you find where that is on your patient. You grab the heel of your hand here. So I'm assuming that George is an adult here. We'll go through the baby techniques in a moment. Heel of the hand there. You put your other hand around your wrist, and then we do 30 compressions. We do them at the rate of about 2 per second. So the easiest way to remember that is actually sing a child's nursery rhyme at that speed and do the compressions along with it. So what I've been taught is little Peter Rabbit had a fly upon his nose. Little Peter Rabbit had a fly upon his nose. Little Peter Rabbit had a fly upon his nose, and he flipped it and he flopped it and it flew away. Then we go straight into 2 rescue breaths if you want to do rescue breaths. You can either pinch the nose, you can block the nose with your cheek, whatever way to just get that nose closed up. You do that and you go. and then straight back into CPR. It's a CPS down.
Can I ask how forceful you are when
Yep. No, you're okay. You go about a third of the chest depth. So again, whether it's a baby, a small child, or an adult, about a third of the depth of the chest. So the difference then, and we'll do some practice on babies in a moment. The difference between adults, toddlers, and babies is that for a baby, because they are so small, you will only be doing it with 2 fingers. So you'll be doing it like that, 1 hand, 2 fingers, and your breaths will just be like puffs, like that's all you need for a baby. For a child aged between about 1 to 8, you just do it with 1 hand and slightly more forceful blows, more like and then adults was just as I demonstrated there, all of them about a third of the chest depth. You need to get a bit of depth in there. There are stories of ribs being broken when this happens. And basically you do that until the emergency services come along, until you're absolutely physically exhausted, or until D, someone arrives with a defibrillator. We won't go through defibrillators today, but if you happen to be in a shopping centre, a workplace, a school, they often have defibrillators around, and the defibrillator, once they put the patches on, that'll actually tell you when to stand clear so they can zap the person. So we've got a few minutes now just to run through some demos with you guys and practice the A, B and C with our babies. We'll assume that we've found some little babies on the ground, maybe they've fallen in the bath or something. So first thing we want to do is we want to get them nice and flat, and we want to check their airways. Yep, that's it.
Oh,
So
I was doing that.
so you just want to be opening up the mouth, looking in there, all clear. Okay, so now we want to see whether babies are breathing. So what are the 3 things that we're looking for? Feel it? Yep.
Listening and feeling.
Yeah, feel the breath. That's right. Baby breathing?
No.
No. All right, CPR girls. So what are we after? Yep, couple of fingers, just below the sternum.
And start singing.
Yep, off we go, little Peter Rabbits.
Only works if you know the rest.
Yep, and then we got our two little tiny huffs. Perfect, and you keep on going like that. So how would you guys feel now about, if you ever did come across that situation, about potentially doing that? You've got a bit of confidence now, do you think?
Definitely one step better, absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, no one's perfect, and
It's simple.
yeah, it is. You used to have to do expire resuscitation. There were different ratios. You have to remember a whole heap of things to actually be able to start your CPR now. Because they just completely simplified it for any old person now. And that's why I thought you guys might be interested in finding out the new process tonight. If you want any more information or any further reading, got a good old first aid book here and one of my CPR training manuals that we did once, if you want to have a flip through that. And I've actually got some handouts here that's a summary for adult, child, infant, and goes through, how many breaths, chest compression, the depth, the rate, and those kind of things. So I'm going to take that home and teach your partners and husbands as well, so that, yes, your children are in good hands then. That'll be good. So are there any other questions before we finish up?
Just if you find them not on their back, I know, you said it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But, if their face was covered or anything, it's just, first thing you do is get them either, if they're not on their back, you just put them straight off their side.
But if they're not on their back, to be able to assess their airways and breathing, they need to be on their back. So, as long as you don't suspect it's a serious spinal injury, I'd be flipping them onto their back, doing your DRS and airway on their back. So, thank you. All right, and thanks guys for your time.
Thank
I
you.
hope you learned something.
Thank you.